not able to see her. Okay, I know.
All
Good
right.
afternoon,
Okay,
Mr. Klaus.
maybe
Yes,
Shruti, you can
Klaus.
start as per the list. We can start.
Sure.
All right.
Okay.
Great.
Uh,
Is my PDF visible to all, sir, here?
Shruti, it is
I'll
visible.
go
Just
Yes, it's visible. It's
allow me
visible.
30 seconds, and then you can start the presentation. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Thank you so much. As you can see, the speakers have all joined in, and we'll be starting with implementation of clean energy recovery technologies utilizing the MSW or organic waste. Well, this session is going to be 2 hours, and if you have any questions, you can see the chat box Q&A session. Also, you can see the raise hand option. If you raise your hand, I will pull you up on the screen, and you can ask the question from the speakers. Let me quickly introduce you to the panel. We have Ms. Shruti Ahuja, Director, Ahuja Engineering Services Private Limited. Welcome, ma'am. Mr. Puneet Babbar, CEO, Mosaic Advanced Solutions LLP. Welcome, sir. Mr. Sampath
Good.
S, Managing Director, Pyro Green Energy Private Limited is also joining us. Thank you so much, sir. And I would also like to welcome Ms. Johanna from AAT Austria, who's joining in as well. The series of presentation focuses on advanced and economic clean energy recovery technologies utilizing the municipal solid waste or organic waste for effective usability. So with that, I'll hand over the screen to Ms. Ahuja to start the session. Shruti, over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Kundu. Thanks a lot. So, a very good afternoon to one and all. Thanks to the Mission Energy Foundation and the Waste to Energy 2021 Foundation. I'm really glad to be a part of this. Well, before any of my presentations, I always say that waste to energy is still something that has not taken center stage as yet. We have solar and wind and various other forms of renewable energy which have come into center stage. But waste to energy is really something that needs to be discussed more, that needs to be brought up more. We need to talk about it every day, so that it becomes a part of our clean energy technology agenda as a country. Without further ado, let me please take you all to my outline. So this is what I will be talking about today. I'm not very sure as to who all our audience is, but I think most of us already know about what biogas is and what high rate biomethanation technologies are. But I will very quickly take you through the very basic definition of biogas and high rate biomethanation for those of you who don't know this. Um, then we will look at various organic substrates that are available around us in our cities, various organic wastes, various organic streams that are available, that are ready to be used, ready to be scientifically treated. And we will look at the need for commercial scale implementation of these high rate biomethanation solutions across India. Then I will quickly tell you all a little bit about what we do here at AESPL, at Ahuja Engineering Services. This will be followed up by a snapshot of our waste to energy plants that have already been implemented across India. Again, this is just to give a very brief and quick overview of what indigenous projects, indigenous biogas plants look like, and how we can actually bring them about at various scales, and of course utilize a variety of organic wastes that are present. Owing to our discussion, which is about implementation of commercial scale plants and their financial viabilities, I will just, in a very simple way, try to explain as to how we should look at these waste to energy projects from a financial viability as well as a sustainability point of view. And then, of course, we'll conclude with some quick remarks and recommendations, and I'll be happy to take any questions that may arise. So again, for those of you who are not very aware in the audience as to what biogas is, this is a very brief overview of biogas technology as a whole. So when we convert organic waste into biogas and biomanure, we do this through a process called anaerobic digestion. Anaerobic digestion is conversion of organic wet waste into biogas and biomanure in the absence of air. and in the presence of some microbial consortia. Biogas now is a combination of methane and carbon dioxide. It is something that can burn. It is a clean burning fuel. And again, to put it, to give a quick project spin to it, I would like to just state that biogas can be directly utilized as a thermal application. We can burn it and generate heat. That is, we can easily replace non-renewable fuels like LPG and PNG. It could be at a at a kitchen level, or it could be at an industrial level. If we can utilize this biogas directly as a thermal application, as directly as a thermal fuel, it would make our waste to energy projects extremely financially viable. But let us suppose that biogas does not find a thermal application, then it is always possible to convert biogas into power. And again, commercially, we have n number of biogas generators that can convert biogas directly into power, and the power can directly be again utilized in situ if we are talking about distributive waste management plants, or it can also be given out to the grid. Last but not the least, of course, we have the third application and the most popular application nowadays of biogas, which is to upgrade biogas to bio-CNG or bio-PNG. So that is making biogas, which is 60% methane, converting it into 95 to 99% methane. And this upgraded or purified biogas can be bottled, and it can be again transported and utilized for any thermal application. And it can also be used as a vehicular fuel. During this entire conversion of organic waste into biogas, what we get is a byproduct, a very valuable byproduct, a very good value addition to this process, which is biomanure. And thanks to FCO, this biomanure, both in solid as well as liquid form, has been recognized as an organic fertilizer, which can be utilized as per norms, without any need for permissions, can be easily utilized for agricultural purposes as well as for landscaping and various other applications that fertilizers are usually utilized for. Now, there are various organic wastes available in our cities. I will talk about cities because I truly believe that cities are the ones who are responsible for the generation of maximum amount of waste. Our villages and I would say smaller towns are still extremely clean. They recycle a lot, and they waste a lot lesser than cities do. I come from the city of Hyderabad, and we here generate at least 5,000 to 6,000 tons of municipal solid waste on a daily basis. And of course, cities like Bombay and Delhi generate a lot more, maybe close to 10,000 tons of MSW every day. So municipal solid waste, in very simple terms, is a combination of all kinds of wastes the wastes that are coming out of our homes, out of hospitals, out of institutions, out of offices, even vegetable market yards. Everything put together is called municipal solid waste. Then a very interesting waste stream that is available in our cities and which is highly segregated and available in distributive fashion is vegetable waste or vegetable mandi waste. And this space is a space where we have already worked on commercial scale. So I would be very happy to show you all some snapshots of our vegetable waste management solution and how we are actually multiplying it. So this is a very important waste that needs to be treated and can be in fact treated in a much easier fashion when compared to MSW, which is highly diverse and unsegregated to a large extent. A third and a very important organic waste stream, again, this is something that we are currently working on commercial scale, is slaughterhouse waste. There are a number of slaughterhouses in every city. Some are organized, some are a little disorganized. But this sector is really a space that needs a lot of attention when it comes to scientific waste management, and biomethanation or biogas solutions can really bring about good, I would say very, very viable financial solutions or financial models around treating slaughterhouse waste as well. Then of course we have a lot of food waste that gets generated, or kitchen waste that gets generated at large scale, be it canteens or hostels or large kitchens like hotels, and our religious institutions like temples and gurudwaras that are cooking on large scale in bulk cooking. So this is another area where biomethanation is already playing a very important role in terms of distributive waste management, as well as energy generation, clean energy generation. And last but not the least, of course, this list is really long, but I just felt that these 5 sectors are already seeing a lot of work. That's why I've listed only 5 such streams. So dairies and poultry farms are again areas wherein a lot of organic waste is generated, that is animal waste. And this area of work is very interesting because again biogas plays a very efficient role in treating both cow dung as well as poultry litter. And these are places where waste is a problem. For example, poultry farms today are finding it very difficult to get rid of their waste. So if at all we have solutions being set up in situ which can take care of these wastes through biomethanation, and energy can be generated, then these solutions create a very interesting closed loop system. But having said this, of course, there are technical viabilities, there are financial viabilities to these biogas solutions. But the most important aspect of any waste to energy technology is to be able to treat our waste scientifically and correctly, and not send it to our landfills or any other unscientific method. So what happens if these waste to energy technologies are not implemented? What happens if we do not talk about waste to energy technologies? I've had some industries actually come up and tell us that small scale industries or mid scale industries come up and tell us that they generate some amount of organic waste, but they have huge issues in actually getting rid of their waste. I would just like to share a very recent experience that I had with the Ayurveda product manufacturing company. They are based out of Hyderabad, and they told us that since you are developing waste to energy solutions, can you look at what we have? And this was one of the first experiences we have had with a small scale industry generating organic waste through their process of Ayurveda medicine manufacturing. So they told us that they generate about a ton or ton and a half of organic waste every day through their process of medicine manufacturing, Ayurveda medicine manufacturing. There are few months of the year where they can easily get rid of their waste, because there are some farmers who are happy to take their waste, they compost it further and use it as a fertilizer. But there are many months in the year when let's say full scale agriculture is not going on, or when it's the rainy season, that their waste does not get picked up, their waste is absolutely not in demand. So they were telling us that it's a very big problem just to get rid of this waste. Now, 1 ton might sound very high for a few people, and it might sound very low for the rest of you. But the point that I'm trying to bring here on the table is that there is a need for proper waste disposal, and waste disposal itself can be a very big issue for various sectors. Like sabji mandis or industries and various other spaces. Secondly, of course, we all know about landfilling. Landfilling is one of the most widely used methodology in order to get rid of our municipal solid waste. But the biggest problem with landfilling is that it has some very big limitations. A very obvious limitation to landfilling is that we do not have enough space. We do not have enough land in our cities to keep landfilling. And even if we do, then there's a huge amount of expenditure involved with associated with landfilling. That is, these landfills have to be scientifically done, they have to be capped, they have to be analyzed and checked on a regular basis, so that they do not end up with any sort of environmental or any other hazardous situation. So there's a huge amount of maintenance that actually goes on from the side of the municipalities in order to just maintain these landfills. And of course, the most obvious effects of not talking about or not going for waste to energy plants would be the environmental hazards, whether it is your air or water pollution. Um, Environmental hazards are obviously already happening. We are already in the midst of it. So waste to energy technologies have to come into play. And I strongly believe that there is no one technology that is going to solve the problem. There are various, not just biogas or biomethanation. There are various other waste to energy methodologies that have to be, all put together in order to take care of at least some part of our waste. Again, not all of it. I know it's not practical, but at least half of it, or 50-60% of our waste needs to be treated scientifically by some method or the other, this technology or that technology. A lot of these technologies have to go hand in hand and they have to play together. I have put together a very simple presentation so that our audiences get a full gist of what these technologies can do. Um, a little, a preview of what we do as a company. We are about 30 years old, and we've been into EPC and consulting. About 10 years back, we started working in this field of waste to energy and specifically biogas, and we have been doing it ever since. We've been associated with the CSIR lab, IICT, Indian Institute of Chemical Technology. So they have developed a technology which can treat a number of organic waste substrates and convert it into biogas and biomanure at various scales. So what we have done is that we have licensed their technology and we have scaled it up. And now we are implementing these technologies on commercial scale. So we have about 20 plus operational plants across India, and we are working on, again, a number of scales, a number of waste quantities. We have something as small as 100 kgs per day biogas plant to about 10 to 15 tons per day biogas plant as well. We have currently done lots of projects with food waste and kitchen waste. Again, that is at small to mid scale. Mid scale is what we like to define it as when we talk about 500 kgs per day or 1 ton per day. And we have now also worked with municipal solid waste, landfill leachate at about 5 tons per day scale. Not recently, but about a year ago, we implemented a 10 tons plant, 10 tons per day vegetable market yard plant as well, where we treat vegetable waste and convert it into biogas power. So I will give you all a quick view of these projects, just to give you all a perspective of what they really look like. So, this is what our small to mid-scale plants look like. We manufacture these plants in-house. They are basically skid-mounted compact boxes, as we call it. They are these magic boxes that are factory made. They are factory ready. And we take it to the customer, and we install and commission these plants, and they are basically ready to use. So I'll give you all a quick example. Of one of our very important customers have been the Akshay Patra Foundation. The Akshay Patra Foundation is a foundation that has large kitchens spread across India, across the country, and they cook midday meals for children. So they have multiple kitchens, and each of these kitchens generates some amount of kitchen waste, food waste. When they take this waste, when they take this food from their kitchens to the school, there is a lot of absenteeism and children not turning up, to various other reasons why some amount of food also comes back. So typically, their kitchens prepare about 50,000 meals per day to 1 lakh meals per day. Again, depends upon the location they are at. And each of these kitchens, like I said, is generating some amount of waste. So we have about 12 plants running with the Akshay Patra Foundation in various cities. Some of them look like this, as you can see on my slide. They range between 500 kgs to about a ton per day. These projects are self-sustaining, because the waste is anyways getting generated in their plants, and the waste is getting converted into biogas and biofertilizer. This biogas is being cleaned and pipelined back into their kitchens to replace a part of their LPG consumption. So it ends up saving them a whole lot of LPG on a daily basis, as well as it is a part of their Akshay Patra's clean energy initiative and good practice, that they want to deal with their own waste and they don't want to throw this waste out or give it away to the municipality. So this is one such example of implementation of biogas technology on commercial scale. Again, the scale is defined as mid to small to mid, but there are various possibilities to it. I would like to show you a couple more images of some of our commercial implementations. So this is another, I would say, mid-scale implementation, which we have done at the dump site here in Hyderabad. It's the dump site is called Jawahar Nagar. Here we are treating municipal solid waste and landfill leachate on a daily basis, and we are generating biogas power. The power that is generated is again being used in situ by the facility to run some electrical load like pumps and compressors and various other motors that they have already in line. So these examples that I am showing you are all examples of distributive waste management. So we strongly feel that it's important to, I mean, this is again part of the solution. I'm not saying that this is the way to go, but wherever waste is available in a segregated fashion, it really makes a lot of sense to set up these plants in a distributive fashion very close to the waste, because it results in a lot of advantages. One is your waste does not need to be transported. You are not sending your waste from point A to point B, then this dump site to the final dump site, and the final dump site then landfills this waste. So the idea is to treat this waste in situ. If there are bulk waste generators, bulk organic waste generators, and if they are to set up their own plants, such as these, in their own backyards, then a lot of this waste, I would say potentially at least 10-20% of our organic wastes, which is now going to the landfill, can be treated scientifically through these methods. So even in this case, of course, this is a plant that you see is set up inside the dump site, and this was done from a scientific and a research point of view. But the previous slide that I've shown you is a classic example of distributive waste management. This particular project that we implemented at Jawahar Nagar in Hyderabad is also one of its kind, because we are here making use of the leachate that trickles down from the landfill sites, from the various landfills that are already there in this dump site, and the combination of MSW and landfill leachate has been tried for the first time here at Jawahar Nagar, and I'm happy to say that this is a successfully running project, and it is also highly scalable. We are already looking at various, talking to various municipalities about, scaling up this particular phenomena further to at least about 20 to 25 tons per day. And that is definitely something which is possible. Now, I would like to take you all to another interesting commercial site that we have worked on. This is what I was talking about earlier. This is a 10 ton per day biogas plant that has been set up by us in association with the Indian Institute of Chemical Technology. This plant is set up inside a sabji mandi. It's called the Boyanpalli Vegetable Market. It's one of the biggest vegetable markets in the city. It's a wholesale market, which basically is into sale of vegetables as well as grains. But here we have about 10 tons of vegetable waste alone that gets generated on a daily basis. Before this plant was set up, this waste obviously was getting diverted to the municipality dump sites, and it was finally going to Jawahar Nagar. The idea of setting up this plant, I think I'm repeating myself, but I would like to say it again, that the idea of setting up this plant inside the sabji mandi was again to prove the same point, that distributive waste management really plays a very important role in scientific waste management, and it lessens the burden on landfills and the municipal waste. So this project is running since, I would say, it's been more than a year, almost 2 years, so April 2020. It's been running since April 2020. We ran through COVID as well. It was a very challenging and interesting project for us. We are still, the operation and maintenance company for this project. We were involved in the turnkey SITC of this project. Here we are generating biogas, and the biogas is getting converted into we have two applications here. That is, one is biogas power. That is, the vegetable market has a lot of lighting load as well as cold storages and offices. So we are sending this biogas power to the vegetable market's electrical load itself. So it's being utilized in situ. And a part of the biogas is also being pipelined to one of their canteens, which is also inside the market. The canteen cooks food for vendors on a daily basis. So they are also utilizing about 100 cubic meter of biogas directly in their kitchen to replace about 30 kgs of LPG, 30 to 40 kgs of LPG per day. And the rest of the biogas is generating power, like I said. The biofertilizer, which is being generated through this implementation, is being picked up by an entrepreneur who is finally selling it at a minimal rate at the moment, but he is selling it as a fertilizer to certain farmlands in the outskirts of Hyderabad. So I would say that this is a very important and classic example of distributive waste management inside a Sabji Mandi. And I'm also happy to say that we are on our way to multiply this same concept within the same vegetable market yard at different scales. We have already set up a few more smaller vegetable market-based plants at 500 kgs per day in 3 Raitu Bazaars in Hyderabad. And we are again going to start working on some more similar projects very soon. So this is a live plant, and I'd be happy to show any one of you if you would be interested in physically seeing this project. And I would also like to mention that this project gained a lot of momentum and a lot of popularity because it got mentioned by PM Modi ji in his Mann Ki Baat. If I have some time, I can show you the clip as well. But that really got a lot of municipalities aware that yes, indigenous technologies exist, and plants such as these are a reality, and they can be made into a financially a stable model. Now, coming to the financial viability of these waste to energy plants, I have not put up any flowery ROI terminology here. I'm just trying to bring some very simple points forward. Like I said, that distributive biogas plants do one very important thing. They do an important thing of saving waste disposal cost. So a lot of municipalities are already paying huge waste disposal costs to, in order to dump the waste, in order to take it to the landfill site, etc. So this transportation and logistics and waste disposal cost itself is close to about 2,000 rupees a ton. So if these projects are set up in a distributive fashion, very close to where the waste is, a lot of waste disposal costs get saved. So that is one very big saving, which makes these projects automatically very viable. And when I say viable, it gets you back the money. The return on investment is as attractive as 4 to 5 years, 4 years, I would say, maybe less than 4 years as well at certain scales. And biogas and biofertilizer is something that I feel is like a bonus. As long as we are setting up these projects and scientifically treating our waste and saving waste disposal costs, it is something that already is making our projects viable. So biogas and biofertilizer is something that sustains the operation and maintenance of these projects. Secondly, environmental economics is something that we have not been speaking about. I think I really urge experts on the panel today and various experts that I always interact with. I urge them, I request them to spread more and more awareness about environmental economics. Environmental economics are the hidden or the intangible costs or the long-term costs that are being saved when we set up a waste to energy plant or a biogas plant. that is costs savings or reduction in costs of landfilling, and the subsequent health and environmental implications of landfills and various other dumping activities that take place are costs that we cannot see today, but they are definitely something that are going to get affected positively if we are taking care of some of this burden. So I really request experts to spread more and more awareness about these aspects of environmental economics, in addition to the obvious savings that take place. And I think I'm running out of time, but I would just like to tell our audiences that there are huge opportunities, huge business opportunities as well that exist in this space, in this field. That is, upgradation of biogas is definitely something which is being talked about. It is already being implemented at commercial scale, but it needs to spread a lot more. So transport of bio CNG for thermal applications and use of fuel as a vehicular fuel is definitely something that is going to be the future. And we already have very interesting programs like the Satat program, which have already brought about a huge amount of acceleration in this whole waste to energy field. Upgradation of biogas to bio PNG is also something that is really going to be interesting, because with some new guidelines, we do not always need to look at compressing biogas and putting them into cylinders and transporting them. There will be some very interesting opportunities wherein we will be able to purify the biogas and inject it into a grid and actually utilize it as PNG, that is pipelined natural gas. And of course, the recognition, as I've already mentioned, recognition of the solid and liquid fertilizer under FCO is a very, very big plus, which is going to make the implementation of commercial scale biogas plants even more attractive, both from a technical point of view, pollution control point of view, as well as a financial point of view. So, concluding remarks, some really direct points, very simple ones. Let's stop looking at waste to energy solutions as an option. It's not an option anymore. Waste to energy technologies, whether biogas or anything else, really need to take center stage. Bring environmental economics into center stage again. Talk about environmental economics, spread awareness, and make it a point to explain and tell our municipalities that environmental economics is important to be looked at, not just the direct return on investments, but environmentally we have to understand what is being brought to the table by these waste to energy solutions. Make discussions around solid waste treatment as common as ETPs and STPs. Okay, when we have a setup being made, let's say a gated community is coming up or a industry is being set up, ETPs and STPs are a must. Nobody talks about the financial viability of an ETP or an STP. So why not make solid waste management and solid waste treatment a compulsory action? Make industries and bulk waste generators responsible for their wastes. So these are just some of my concluding remarks. I will be happy to take any questions now or later. So over to you, Mr. Kundu. Thank you so much once again.
Thank you, Ms. Ahuja, for that wonderful presentation. As Shruti just said, we have Q&A at the end of the session. So if you have any questions regarding her presentation, you can post them out in the Q&A section. And with that, I would like to thank Ms. Ahuja once again for her presentation and move on to invite the next presenter. I see Mr. Babar up here. Mr. Babar, I'll request you to take the center stage now.
I'll just share my screen.
Please, again.
Hello.
Yes, sir. It's visible.
Yeah,
You're absolutely
okay.
clear, audible. Please go ahead.
Okay, fine. It was visible and completely audible. Fine,
Yes.
fine. So, very good afternoon to all the speakers and all the participants and the other delegates. First of all, I would like to thanks for giving us the opportunity to share our experience in this particular field of biogas production. As like you have already seen gone through a very wonderful presentation by Ms. Shruti Ahuja on their technologies, on their installations for biogas facilities uh, pan India. And of course, you will be going through another presentation I can see from ATT Sweden, Austria, sorry, and they will be also giving their technology setups to the viewers. So, as a waste management professional, my intentions for this session to make the participants and the delegates understand more about the technological aspects of this particular field, so that they will be able to take the informed decision while structuring and developing these kind of projects, specifically if I'll talk about government authorities and municipal bodies. So when they are planning to set up such kind of projects, they usually make as per our experience we saw, they usually make mistakes in terms of selecting the adequate capacity or adequate feed. So ultimate financial sustainability is not there. So those aspects I'll be covering, so to make them understand for structuring these kind of projects. So I'll start my presentation with a quick introduction to the Mosaic Advanced Solutions. So we are an expert advisory firm providing technical and transaction advisory services to the municipal authorities and the urban local bodies and urban development departments. So we are particularly working in the for the services for solid waste management, sanitation, wastewater, and other related fields, and we are supporting these organizations for their mandates to achieve under the various programs and schemes like Swachh Bharat Mission, AMRUT, Smart City, etc. We are right now working with various state government of JNK, West Bengal, state governments of UP, East Delhi Municipal Corporation, and also with some multilateral institutions and PSUs. So my presentation outline for today would be, first I'll be covering biogas production from organic MSW. So when I talk about this particular production from organic MSW, it's a quite unexplored area. So uh, biogas is already a very established field throughout in our country also and throughout the world also. But if you see, if you see, more installations are done on different feeds which are more related to biomass substrates and all. So when we specifically talk to the municipal solid waste, we see usually see that percentage of such solutions in terms of processing facilities based on thermal solution or maybe MRF or maybe composting technologies. So percentage of installation of biogas plant on municipal waste is very less. So this is particular the area, it is quite unexplored, and we should have more kind of installations for municipal waste also. Uh, then there is a lack of understanding within the authorities, that I say they are not able to take informed decisions while structuring these kind of projects, how to structure, what capacity, though that I'll be covering in my presentation. Then I'll be covering some technical aspects of generation and utilization. So like process details, process optimization, different types of digesters, what kind of technology we can use for production of biogas. And when I will definitely specifically if we want to generate power and bio CNG, then there is some purification techniques we need to deploy. So I'll be covering those in a very quick brief. And then I'll be giving some examples and kind of installations to how these kind of installation can be done at small scale and large scale level by the authorities, and how the products can be utilized by them. And then I'll be covering some quick overview on policy and regulatory framework on these kind of installations in our country. And last, a brief strategy based on our experience. I'll be sharing few suggestions for specifically for the government institutions. So first, why biogas ascertaining the effect of clean energy? So today we are presenting a session for implementing clean energy technologies. So why biogas we are defining as a clean energy? So If we go by a total overview of Indian MSW, then we have, everybody knows we have wet waste and dry waste. We have different kind of fractions in wet waste, food waste, eggshells, meat, and other wet item. And in dry waste, we have other paper, cardboards, packaging items, such thing. So, if you see, there is a study conducted by NERI and CPCB in 2005, and as per that study conducted, 50 to 60% of this waste producing in the cities, Indian cities, is of organic fraction, and remaining 10 to 30% is recyclable RDF, and 30 to 50% inert. Then there is another journal by an American Society of Civil Engineer that has been published in 2011, where they have established some kind of physical composition of Indian MSW, and here you can also see biodegradable components 50 to 55%. So my aim to from this slide to just know the participant that still now we have a major fraction of waste generation. About 50 to 55% is the organic content, and remaining is the other part. We are municipalities are dealing with the remaining fraction, but this particular fraction, almost half of the waste, we need to treat it and tackle it with more in a more scientific manner, in a more technical manner. So this 50 to 65% waste, as I said, it is the basically reason for the nuisance. As we can see, why it poses difficulty in waste handling during collection and transportation. It poses microbial and parasitic infections. It creates odor problem in the nearby areas. It creates ground pot water pollution and surface water degradation through leachate generation. Again, putrefaction of this kind of waste generates greenhouses gases like methane and CO2, and of course fire hazards. So if we say about technological solution for the waste generated in Indian cities, so we can divide this solution in a two broad component: thermochemical conversion and biochemical conversion. Now thermochemical conversion is something different, which are based on heat solution, then like incineration, pyrolysis, gasification, that is decomposition of organic matter by action of heat. And to biochemical conversion, we have aerobic solution like composting, and anaerobic biomethanation. And here we decompose the organic matter by the action of microbial and microbial bacteria. So why we are saying this biomethanation, and we are taking this particular option as a clean energy? So here you can show you can see a pyramid. This has been taken from the EU directives from 2098, in which they have structured these different technologies in a most preferred and least preferred options. So you can see, after waste reduction recycling, this anaerobic composition is the most preferred way, biomethanation. Then comes to aerobic composting, waste to energy, landfill, and all the solutions. So this ascertain the fact that biomethanation is actually the cleanest solution by the and that's why we are going for with this particular option. So biomethanation process of production of from anaerobic digestion of organic and biodegradable waste. So typical features of biogas, I'll quickly run through this slide because I think Ms. Ahuja has already covered this. It's a clean and environmentally friendly fuel. We are also called as a biomethane or bio-CNG. If you see by the composition of gas, then biogas contains 50 to 65% of methane, which is highly flammable, high, and has a very good calorific value. Then we have 35 to 45% is the carbon dioxide, and then other impurities in terms of hydrogen sulfide and water vapor and all. So this is the composition of the raw biogas. When I said 50 to 65% of methane. Average calorific value is 4713 kilocalorie per meter cube, and so liquefaction of methane can be done at -82 degrees Celsius temperature and 4.7 Pascal pressure. So at normal conditions, when unlike LPG, we can't store it in a normal cylinder and normal room temperature pressure. It has to be pressurized for storage. And when processed to the purity standards, then we can always convert this biogas into bio-CNG. when we remove the impurities like carbon dioxide and hydrogen disulfide from the raw biogas, then we finally convert that biogas into the bio-CNG, and we can use it for the applications for power generation and alternative transport automotive fuel. So conversion of biogas from raw waste to the final biogas is can be divided into four stages. It's hydrolysis. Like first, our complex matter gets converted into the sugars, fatty acids, and amino acid. Then there is a stage of acidogenesis and acetogenesis, where weak acid and strong acids get generated, and final stage is methanogenesis, where actual methane production is happens. So in with these stages help with the help of different microbes and bacteria and different temperature and conditions, we finally able to produce biogas from the digestion of organic waste. So a typical process layout of biogas plant, like we have organic waste, we can transform into a slurry. We fed that waste into the digester. Digester is nothing, is an enclosed kind of structure. It can be of a MS structure, it can be of a RCC structure, where anaerobic digestion happens. And after this anaerobic digestion, we are able to get the biogas. If we use that biogas in a raw form as it is, then we can use it as a cooking gas, for an as a replacement of LPG. And if we purify that gas up to some certain standards as per the specification set by Bureau of Indian Standards, then we will be able to use that product as a for the generation of power and bio-CNG. So if you see from the slide, I have given specifically mentioned for the when we use such application biogas in application like cooking gas and LPG replacement. So it actually pertains to a small scale kind of solutions. So when because in small scale, if we go on converting raw biogas into the purify it and converting the raw biogas into the bio-CNG, then it doesn't give such economic viability to the plant. So up to 5 TPD is the standard set up by CPHO manual. We can use up to 5 TPD plants, waste capacity plant. We can use that biogas into the as a raw biogas and direct replacement of LPG. And if we have higher capacity plants, more than 5 TPD, 10, 50, 100, 150, 200 TPD, then it is always beneficial to convert that biogas into bio-CNG and commercialize that gas, and you can have that economic viability from that particular solution. And of course, we after the end of the solution, we also got fertilizer in terms of solid fertilizer and liquid fertilizer, and that can also add some value if we sell that fertilizer as a compost. So that added some additional value to the plant. So utilization of biogas, like I said, for small scale application, it is always preferred to utilize as a cooking gas, as an replacement of LPG, or maybe in a direct lighting purpose. There are some lamps available in the market which directly burns onto the raw biogas. So this can also be explored. And if we go for large installations, large scale applications, city level plant or community based plant, so we should preferably go for generation of power, and or maybe use that biogas as a bio-CNG for the transportive or automotive fuel. But for second solution, like for power generation and transport fuel, we need to have some more kind of setups linked with our biogas digester. So we need to install some purification units for the removal of CO2 and hydrogen disulfide and water vapors and other impurities. So this is particularly important when we go for such solution for power generation and transportive fuel. Like I said, total generation of biogas happens in that digester body that, like I've shown in my previous slide. So we can now there are different kind of technologies you will be seeing in the market in the field. But what actually all are depend on the kind of digester or maybe used. And second thing, kind of technology and flow being used in the digester. So if we go purely on the basis of structural basis, then we can have two kind of digester structure. One is a fixed dome and one is a floating dome. I have given the features and comparison between floating and fixed dome structure here. And if we see from this comparison, fixed dome structure is always preferred in terms of in comparison to the floating dome structure. So now if we talk about the type of digester based on other parameters like number of phases, stages and digestion. So there are monophasic digester, there are biphasic digester, there are multiphasic digester. So monophasic digester where we have single digester like basic KVIC design. If we go by that design, it's a monophasic digester. Then there's a biphasic design developed by Nisar Bruna, BARC, Bhabha Atomic Research Center. That technology is known as BARC. That is a double digestion system in which aerobic digestion followed by anaerobic digestion. Then there is another digester developed by Terry. It is called TEAM, Terry Enhanced Acidification Technology, and it is a multiphasic digester. It actually uses multiple digester for enhanced acidification. Then based on operating temperature, we can divide these digester design into mesophilic and thermophilic. So mesophilic digester work for under the temperature range of 20 to 45 degrees Celsius, and thermophilic digester works under the temperature range of 55 to 60 degrees Celsius. So these are more linked to the climatic condition where we are going to deploy such kind of installation. If it is a cold area like in European countries, they preferably go for thermophilic digestion because they need to give external heat into the digester, and for with that thermophilic bacteria, they can have a good efficiency in terms of biogas generation and in terms of methane percentage in the overall raw biogas. Then based on the flow, if we see, then there is a batch process digester and continuous. So where feed is not regular, we go by batch process, and where the feed is regular, we can go by continuous process. And lastly, by the digester technology, we have digestion based on suspension. So it's a suspended particulate. We can have UAF, upflow anaerobic filter, upflow anaerobic sludge blanket, and hybrid systems. So those can be referred in details, but basic idea to just here to give these kind of comparison to just make the participant understand what kind of digesters and these technologies are available generally in the market. And there are proprietary ship designs on these kind of different digesters with some additional customization and specialization that is available for the installations. Okay, then this slide is basically giving the biogas generation rate for different kind of feed. So if you can see, I have converted into per kilogram per cubic meter biogas production with the total quantity of that waste feed. So if we see cattle dung, then you would be required around 25 kilograms to produce 1 meter cube of gas. If we go for the serial number of 2, 3, 5, and 7, so these are the constituents which we usually find in the municipal solid waste like green leaves and twigs, food waste, fruit waste, dry leaves. So there are different kind of different quantities we require per cubic meter of production of the gas. But or taking an average of 2, 3, 5, and 7, adding these components, it can be seen that we can have production of 1 cubic meter of biogas with approximately 10 kilogram of feed, and with an methane content in raw biogas of 60%. So this is a thumb rule. If we go with the organic content of municipal waste in our cities, So one can find out, like, if they are having 1 ton of organic waste, so how much biogas is going to be generate in terms of cubic meter, and what will be the percentage of methane in that. So these kind of things are actually necessary to ascertain before we are going to establish such kind of solutions. Okay, then this particular biomethanation or biogas technology it's a very sensitive technology. For I'll just say, because first of all you need actually source segregated material, otherwise you will be end up with the failed installation. So it source segregation is the imperative, it's a necessary and the first and last very important step for the entire process. You have to have a source segregated organics for such kind of installations. Then there are other kind of factors like moisture content, pH, alkalinity within the process, presence of acids, temperature, retention time, CN ratio, ammonia sulfide. Those can affect the process of overall digestion and ultimately availability of raw biogas and methane content in the raw biogas. So these criteria are to be required to be ascertained during the overall process of gas production, and required to be maintained within these limits, so we can have a good production of gas out of this organic waste. Okay, so now for specifically for the local bodies, authorities, we can have two kind of installations on this technology: small scale and large scale. Small scale installations can be taken on a decentralized mode, and large scale application can be taken on a integrated mode. So when I say about small scale installation, you see, it is only the I'm only represent going specifically mentioning biogas to the as a alternative to the LPG. So we have different kind of digesters and ready-made available digesters available these days in the market, starting from the capacity of maybe you can take it for the 50 kg, 100 kg, then up to 5 TPD. We have a ready-made prefabricated kind of digester. You can easily get it from different kind of platforms, and even these days these kind of units also available on the Jam portal. So at your small scale application, for individual households, or for maybe some kind of community level, where you will have some cluster of dairies or cluster of vegetable mandis, or maybe some bulk veg generator. These options are a very good solution, and the municipalities can directly think of installing these kind of solution, and specific, and as an output we can have a replacement of LPG, and then it's actually payback for the entire installation. If we see here, I'll mention how much replacement of LPG we can have with this kind of installation. So 1 meter cube per day of biogas, if we taking this as a thumb rule, so 1 meter cube per day is approximately equal to the 0.45 kilogram per day of LPG. So by this thumb rule, you can always get that calculation for your total savings. Densities I have mentioned here. So this is the total layout for the small scale application. This is kind of family type biogas plant. If you see, for small type of family, having 4 to 5 persons, additional manure for horticulture you can have for horticulture use. And even in SBM2, if you the participants who are knowing this guidelines for Swachh Bharat Mission 2.0, so it is suggesting that every urban local body should always have need to tackle the and they have a suggestion that they should also take care of the nearby rural areas and integrate them within their waste management solution. So these kind of solution, family type biogas plants, will be very beneficial at these kind of places. Then we have some community biogas plant where we have like RWAs with 1,000 households, having around approximately 1,000 households, large institution, especially bulk pay generator as per SWM rule 2016. So they are actually can explode. Municipalities can explode such installations in these kind of for these kind of at these kind of places. Uh, in this slide, I am just giving a different kind of economics, prefabricated plant economics. So I'll be sharing this presentation, and you can have details from them for different plant capacities: 200 kg, 500 kg, 1 ton, 2 ton, 3 ton. What will be the space requirement, biogas production? What will be the manure quantity you will be getting? Ready to use liquid fertilizer? How much power generation can be there? Estimated cost equivalent, how much if you use that biogas in as an alternate to the LPG, then equivalent LPG savings with this that kind of installation. Then coming on to the large scale application, city level or integrate options. Here, specifically, if you see this dotted part, when production of biogas is same, like from the feed feed we give to digester, and by the process of anaerobic digestion we produce biogas. But we don't use for large scale application. It is always suggestive to go for the additional purification and for that biogas, and enrich that biogas in terms of methane percentage, and use it as a vehicular fuel, or maybe power generation, or maybe in large boiler. So this particular purification becomes very important in this kind of solution. And uh, I have just mentioned some purification techniques. So, what kind of techniques you can use for the purification? There are some basic method: water scrubbing, which is a low cost solution. Then there is an advanced method: pressure swing adsorption, chemical adsorption, membrane process, cryogenic separation, where you can have a good quantity, good enrichment of methane up to 95, 96, 97%. And based on financial viability, any one of this can be adopted. This slide is basically giving some comparison of different purification techniques. Like PSA cryogenic. For water scrubbing, it is a low cost solution, but difficult. It poses difficulty in the recovery of CO2. PSA, like pressure swing absorption, economy in production, capital costs are moderate, a relatively quick installation, but its scalability is very low, and chemical regeneration is required. Now, cryogenic method, it gives high priority, high purity, but for disadvantage that it's a cost to very it's a very costly solution, require large slides and limited scalability options. Then membrane separation. Then fast installation, we can have fast installation. Production of output is flexible, purity and flow rate can be vary, but economically not viable, a very costly solution, not suitable for high purity needs. So lastly, chemical absorption, it's which is more efficient in low pressure also, but the problem is regeneration is again and again required. So this based on the advantage and disadvantage, these pros and cons, any technology can be adopted. So bio-CNG comparison, when we talk about raw biogas, so and when we enriched out this biogas after this purification technique, so bio-CNG total specification of bio-CNG is vis-a-vis raw biogas. So methane contents, if you can see, it goes from 55 to 60% to the 92 to 98%. CO2, we have to remove CO2, so it's an impurity. So after purification, we can have only 2 to 8% of CO2 in the bio CNG, unlike 35 to 40% in the raw biogas. A similar case of H2S, moisture, and other impurities. And of course, if you want to store that particular gas in at different kind of pressures, then these are the solution material of construction we need. For the low and medium, we need steel kind of container, and for the high pressure, we need alloy steel of kind of container. This is the specification given by Bureau of Indian Standards for the use of bio CNG specifically, and as per the IS standards 106 16087 of 2013. So this actually sets the minimum percentage of the percentage composition of different constituents in the bio CNG to be used it as an automotive fuel or power generation. Here I am giving a simple economics. Quickly, I'll run through that slide. I have sometime I've worked on 25 TPD bio CNG plant, and this economics we have noted down from that in that particular assignment. So for 25 TPD, if we see total waste quantity becomes 25,000 kg, so we can have a biogas production of 2,000 cubic meter per day with 60 to 65% methane raw biogas. Then if we convert into the bio CNG, then we can get 800 kilogram per day of bio CNG, and of course biofertilizer of 4 tons per day. Land requirements and is given. Capital cost of such with this capacity comes to around 4.5 cr. This that includes civil cost and equipment costs like feed preparation, digesters, storage tanks, scrubbing unit, bottling unit, slurry handling unit, and other electrical and miscellaneous things. OPEX involving labor cost, electricity, and repair and maintenance, that comes around 20 points, around almost 21 lakhs per annum. And if we see go by savings, so I have taken selling cost of bio CNG here is 26 per kg, because the place where we structured this particular project, that IGL line is was not available. But nowadays during Satat scheme, if you feed your bio CNG directly to the IGL, then you will be having an assured price of 46 rupees per kg. So that plant economics get more viability. So with all, but although with 26 per kilogram rate and cost of biofertilizer with 2 per kg, we are having around 80 lakhs of savings per annum. So almost in 4 to 5 years, we can have a total payback of our capex cost. Biogas development policy support and regulatory framework in India. So if we see various ministries and various, of course, various departments, where they have now come up with schemes and guidelines for supporting these kind of installations. In terms of financial support, we can have concession. MNRE has come up with the concessional rates of 5% of GST on biogas production and equipment procurement for biogas projects. So 5% concession in GST. Then custom duty has been reduced to the 5% on the equipment for the biogas projects by MNRE. Then CRC also come up with the tariff when if we go for the power generation of these kind of projects, then rupees 7 per kilo per unit of price they have ascertained. And then there is central financial assistance already given by so many years from the Ministry of New and Renewable Energy on different kind of installation under NBPMM program, biogas power off grid and grid on grid program. Then there is another ministerial support that Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas come up with a scheme, Satat, sustainable alternate towards affordable transportation. So in Satat, they are offering a assured price on of 40 rupees 46 per kg on the bio CNG sale. And every 3 years there is an upward price revision also. So this kind of steps actually supported these kind of support these kind of installations further in the future, near future. Electricity policy by discoms, they have come up with a compulsory procurement of 100% power from these kind of units. Then motor vehicle rules also made provisions for the use of biogas in motor vehicles by Ministry of Road and Road Transport. Then biogas standards has been already notified in 2013, like I've shown in my earlier slide. And then institutional support is given by ministry in terms of their state nodal departments, state nodal agencies, and KVICs. And of course, BDTC, biogas development and these centers as knowledge hubs for this biogas program. Interministerial policies, if you see, we have guiding policies like FCO, which actually gives the technical specs and controlling means of organic fertilizer from this kind of unit. Then we have BIS standard. Then schemes like SBM, Swachh Bharat Mission, and MSW handling rules. They specifically mention using such scientific solutions based on biomethylation. Then biofuel policy, like I said, SATAT, CRC guideline, I already mentioned, motor vehicle rules, solid waste management rules. So it's a very good convergence if you see. No other technology apart from biogas, like if you go for composting, pyrolysis, gasification, maybe thermal installations. So no other technology has so much of convergence with so much interministerial policies. So this is a very good step, and now this particular sector is being in development of this particular sector in our country. Then if you see different kind of ministries total under the coordination of MNRE, Ministry of Chemical Fertilizer, Ministry of Urban Development, Petroleum, Natural Gas, Road Transport, MOEF. These are all running their different schemes and for such installations. You can have all the details on their websites. And there are some other supporting ministries like Rural Development Ministry, which come up with this Gobar Jan Dhan Yojana under SBM Rural. So that has also been a kind of a convergence for these kind of plants. Then Ministry of Chemical, small and medium enterprise, Ministry of Finance, and there are some institutes, IREDA, NCF, NABARD, which provide support on these kind of installations. In terms of regulatory framework, if we go till up to 5 TPD capacity, as WM rules specifically mentioned that there is no kind of special regulatory requirement if we go for the small scale application up to 5 TPD. So and above that, we have to go. We have some regulations need to be followed on such installations. That is pollution control, then NOC from the municipal corporation of Gram Panchayat, then PESO certificate, electricity connection, water connection, land certificate, NOC from State Electricity Board. These regular usual permissions which applicable, but these are applicable on more than 5 TPD plant capacities. So now quickly I am concluding my presentation with 2 more slides. So as per what work we have done in last few years on such technologies, different kind of solution, different kind of technologies on biogas plant installations. So we are now, though I have come up with some strategies for the urban local bodies to how to structure these kind of projects. So for as per our understanding, it should be a 3-tier technology because 3-tier strategy, because ultimately as I said, the source segregation is the source segregation is the key to the success of these kind of projects. So for the ULBs with more than 1 lakh population, now most of the ULBs under after this Swachh Bharat mission are going for source segregation. They are achieving the targets for source segregation. But from the day one, I think it cannot be achieved that if you go for implementing source segregation, it will take some down the line 3 or 4 or 5 years to achieve 100% segregation. So as a part of 3-tier strategy, what we suggest that first in the first stage, ULB should start with biogas solution for the household level, where the individual households or maybe some rural area connecting to the urban local body, they can directly use their daily organic waste into this family small scale application like family kind of biogas plant. Small prefabricated units are easily available in the market, And then ULB can also involve the nearby rural communities as per the suggestions under Swachh Bharat Mission 2.0 guidelines. Then in stage 2, they can come up with set up community-based plants, especially like urban dairy farms available in the municipality area. Then bulk waste generator like vegetable mandis, hotels, etc. And they can also plan some co-digestion with different substrates, like say for example, they can have a bulk installation with any of bulk waste generator. They can always integrate some nearby garden waste or maybe flower and mandi waste with that installations. So these kind of solution can be explored in stage 2 and stage 3 when the ULB is matlab they are they have achieved the full 100% target of the source segregation. Then they should go for the planning integrated facility based on this solution. Key considerations, last slides, I'm just concluding.
Looks like Babbar is having some internet connectivity issues. Puneet, can you hear me? All right. So with that, I think I would invite Mr. Sampath to take forward the center stage and start with the presentation. Whenever Mr. Babbar gets his connectivity back, I think he can come up with the concluding remarks.
The problem is that your share screen is still stuck with him.
Oh, right, sir.
So he has to come out of it.
So,
Support from the ministry are on the production of gas or
can you
bio-CNG
try
or
him
maybe.
now?
Okay.
So there should be some kind of support given by the authorities in the buyback of compost production of this kind of solution. Then also some social, they have to deal with some social constraint also, health and hygiene and NIMBY factor. You must also. So by this thing, I am just conclude my session on biogas production. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Babbar. Truly enjoyed that presentation of yours. So I would reserve some time at the end of the session for some Q&As. In the meantime, I would like to invite on center stage Mr. Sampath S., Managing Director, Pyrogreen Energy Private Limited, to start his presentation. Sir, over to you.
Thank you very much, Ravin, and also thank you very much for the organizers to give an opportunity to talk in this. So both me and AIT, we are together, and Ms. Joanna will talk on behalf of Class Moselberg immediately after that. So since I think we all heard more about biogas, I think I will take some break now. I will be talking about the technology we developed for the non-organics part, that is the plastics, focusing more on the plastics, because if you see, okay, the organic is about 43% of the entire population of municipal waste, and plastic is part of it, about 10% you can say. So I'm trying. We have developed a technology for converting all kind of plastic waste into um, the oil, or from the oil you can produce power. Is it not coming? Can you see the screen?
Not yet, no.
Yeah. Let me try again.
I would request you to try and reshare the screen, sir.
Yeah, I was trying to share this. Normally it's supposed to come. 1 minute. Yes. So what we have been talking about is the plastic. So when we talk about the plastics,
Mr. Sampath, I'll request you to play the presentation. That makes it easier for you to
pardon?
have. I'll request you to play the PPT, sir. So that will help you in flawless
Yeah. Just
sequential.
trying to do something. I thought it would go open. 1 minute, just give me a minute.
No problem.
Before I come, there's some technical issue. Where is the place? All got stuck.
मैंने क्या मैंने कब दिया है? आप ये काम होता है जब आप ये लेके घूमते रहते हो चीजें.
Okay. Anyway, so let's not bother about that. We will go to the main subject. Is yeah. Yeah, so there are two kinds of plastics actually. We can plastic waste generated. One is the plastic that can be recycled, and the plastic that cannot be recycled. Not because it cannot be recycled, basically because of its kind. It is a composite plastic, mixture of two different varieties like polypropylene, polyethylene, plus PET fibers, polyvalent chloride or polycarbonate and things like that. So when it becomes composite, there's a definitely there's a difficulty in recycling the plastic waste. So there are various ways of doing that. Uh, One other solution is people are using it for road construction, but the problem is that not every plastic waste cannot be used as a road construction because some of the material cannot melt in the temperature of yeah. So yeah, one second. Let's come. Temperature of the bitumen. Sorry, bitumen melts around 180 degrees centigrade, whereas some of the plastic like PVC or a PET melt beyond 250 degrees centigrade. So some plastics are definitely problems for laying the roads. So therefore, the usage of plastics in the road is not really catching up. And some people tried the compression board where they heat it and then press the board, and then it's a particle board type and using it for partition and various other applications. And it is going. I mean, it's not that, but the problem is that kind of plastic waste we generate about 4 million tons of plastic waste a year, and these small things is really a difficult one to do. And the easiest way is to send everything to the cement industries where they are burning into the clinkers. The only issue is that here we are just burning the plastics, or which can also be converted into wealth. And the logistic cost for the any municipalities or any entity to send their plastic waste from their source to cement industry is costing quite a lot, and they are not able to consistently pay the transport cost. So that's also getting dropped. And when you talk about the waste to energy solution, then we need to have a minimum quantity that is quite a large quantity, at least 400, 500 tons per day of RDF can definitely use for waste to energy. So, I mean, okay, being the paralysis man, I can't say it's my opinion, but paralysis is one of the easiest way to set up many plants in a smaller town, which produces something like a 3 tons to 5 tons of plastic waste, where we can set up the pyrolysis plant than any other alternative thermal degradation. And also, these small plants also give you some kind of return, so we can sustain the whole process instead of wasting money in sending it to somebody and doing this. So the pyrolysis is one of the steps where we can sustain the
Mr. Sampath again is having some connectivity issues. Joanna, just for your reference, if you see at the bottom of the screen, there is an option where you can choose between high definition and low definition. So
Yes.
if you find any time that your internet is acting up, you can choose the low definition, and that will help you through a presentation without any glitches.
Do you think I should put it on low definition already?
No, if
Usually it's good.
then you shouldn't be worried about it. But
Okay.
in case there is a connectivity issue, then you can choose to do that.
All right.
I'm presuming Mr. Sampath will try and reconnect again. So, in the interest of time, can I request you to join the presentation center stage, and we'll have Sampath ji join in back? That works?
Yeah, sure. So, hello everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Johanna Bogner. I'm not Klaus Moosbrugger. I'm replacing him today. I'm talking in behalf for our company AAT and Anka. So, I can't start my presentation at the moment because it is blocked by Mr. Sampath. But I can give you a quick idea of what I will be talking about later. It's landfill rehabilitation and MSW treatment. So we have 14 MSW plants in operation, and I brought a video where all steps, the whole process is explained. So we have the mechanical sorting, we have the dry digesters, and the other fractions from the mechanical sorting. So we go to RDF, we also go to
Sorry, I think I'm back.
recycling. Okay, so you will see that later.
No, you can talk. If you finish that, maybe I'll take another 5-10 minutes and finish that. Is that okay?
However you like, I can share my presentation now, some part, whatever is
No,
better
no,
for you.
do that. You finish that. Then I'll go back. Finish yours. Go
Great.
ahead. Please go ahead.
Okay, so I think you should see my presentation. Is that correct?
Yes, we can.
Yes. So as I said, I'm talking in behalf of Klaus Moosbrugger today. On the photo, you see the first plant, which I want to show you. So in the left corner, you see the landfill. Then in the center, it is the dry digestion plant, the municipal solid waste treatment plant. And on the left, at the bottom, you see greenhouses and a little research center. So that's one of our plants, and I want to give you some more background information. At first to our company and then about the technology. It's pretty much I want to talk about in the next, let's say, 20 minutes. So AAT and Anka was recently founded with the background of two companies, AAT and ITC. What we do is municipal solid waste treatment and dry digester technology, as well as landfill rehabilitation and landfill gas technology. We are with AAT bringing in 25 years of experience in waste treatment for anaerobic digestion, and with ITC we are bringing in more than 10 years of experience in design, building, and operation of dry fermentation plants. So just to give you a number, we're treating 10,000 tons per day of mixed collected municipal solid waste. One slide to AAT. We've been founded in 1993, so we have more than 20 years where we have experienced staff with experience more than up to 20 years. Our founder has started with biogas plants in 1981. We are part of a bigger Ima Schelling group since 2009, which gives us a good financial background. They have a turnover of around 300 million euros per year. And we've built biogas plants all over the world. We have more than 1,000 satisfied and well-known customers worldwide. On the right side, you see one plant in the Ukraine, our latest project with 6 megawatt electric energy output. This is wet digestion, important to mention. So the other part, ITC, the ITC group from Turkey. Their main field of business is waste recovery, recycling, and collection services. We are operating MSW treatment plants, landfills, and we do final disposal of hazardous waste. That means we also have one incineration plant for medical and hazardous waste. In total, it's those 14 facilities for dry digestion located in 11 cities in Turkey. A few more numbers. So 6 million tons of waste are disposed each year by ITC, and 120 megawatt electric energy is generated. Let's go through the process in a quick video. I hope this is working for all of you. If not, please let me know. So here you see the first step, sorting plant. The waste is delivered and sorted in fractions. This is a drum sieve where you see the light material is sorted out. We will come to that later. Let's start with the organic fraction. It is this part here. It is transported. It's a big volume, so it's a big plant actually. And there you see the pulp. So this is the mixture of the organic fraction of municipal solid waste in the bunker mixed through. And this pulp goes to the dry digesters. You see them here. Each one has a volume of 4,000 cubic meters. So this is definitely big scale waste treatment here. They have one mixer inside. And the biogas produced from dry digestion is then collected in gas holders, cleaned with biological desulfurization, and then put to a CHP unit where electric and thermal energy is produced. The whole plant is run by a remote control center. The product, the digested material, which comes out of the digesters, you can see this here. It goes through several steps. So the first separation gives a cover for landfills. The second separation steps then gives compost. So we also have one composting plant You see here impurities getting sorted out to get clean compost. This is the other fraction from the sorting. So there's one line for recyclable waste, light plastics or plastics with more value are sorted out and then recycled, reused in a separate plant. We have a pressing line for good organization and transport of the recyclable waste. RDF is another fraction, quite an important fraction, I would say, because RDF is the part of the waste which can then be sold. In Turkey, it is sold to cement industry. The price is 15 to 20 euros per ton, just to give you a quick idea. Then we have one fraction which goes to gasification, incineration. And by sorting out this fraction, you have the right calorific heating value for good incineration. This is the incineration plant, which you can see. Also, we have one more field of business, which is medical and hazardous waste. And this also goes to this incineration plant. In fact, I would keep going with my presentation now, as this is not the main focus of this session. I want to talk more about MSW treatment. So let me come to one specific example. This is the landfill, East New Delhi. It includes 18 million tons of garbage and is 65 meters high. So this is definitely a big pile of waste, a wild dump. And rehabilitating this landfill would cost around 20 euros per square meter, just a first rough number. A new landfill with a higher standard would cost 25 to 30 euros per square meter. And the gas production, which could be collected of such a sanitary landfill then, for 2,000 tons per day with 50% organic, would be ranging from 3 megawatt in the first year or starting year up to 12 megawatt if feeding is constant. And to show you what that means, 12 megawatt is around 6,000 cubic meters per hour biogas, landfill gas, with an assumed very conservative amount of 50% of CH4, so this gives 3,000 cubic meters per hour biomethane. And as the global warming potential of methane is 21 times higher than the global warming potential of CO2, this landfill gives emissions of 360,000 tons per year of CO2 equivalents. And I really want to make clear here that this amount of emission is huge and rehabilitating this landfill would give huge ecologic and economic benefits. So ecologic benefit is clear, that's the reduction of emissions of greenhouse gases, the groundwater problem, fire safety problem. So definitely big impact on ecology and the surrounding. Economic benefit means that you have a pretty low investment for rehabilitating this landfill. If a direct income, as after 6 months, more or less, electric energy production can start. And with a rising CO2 price, those 360,000 tons per year CO2 equivalents, it's a huge amount of money. So yeah, sanitizing those kind of wild dumps is definitely a very low-hanging fruit for climate change adaptation and emission reduction. That's a big thing, and it's a big business in my eyes for the future. So what we do, landfill rehabilitation, how it works. You see those photos on the left side. Those are the wild dumps, or they used to be wild dumps, and then they get defined boundaries. Gas is collected by a gas collection system, and then you have the sanitary landfills on the right side. Another field of business of ours is MSW treatment, also important point of this session today. So I want to show you quickly the process. We have the solid waste coming in, municipal solid waste. We have a mechanical sorting plant, which is very important because if the organic fraction, as we saw in the previous presentation, is higher than 45%, it's not good for incineration, or the incineration is not very efficient, let's say. So it's definitely an important step to do this mechanical sorting in a first fraction, which is the biodegradable waste, the organic fraction, which then goes to the dry digesters, as we have seen in the video. From there, biogas, biomethane, and compost and fertilizer can be produced. So this is the first fraction. The second fraction, recyclable wastes, plastics, can be recycled. We have the RDF, refuse-derived fuel, which can go, as I said, to cement industry, can be sold. So you usually have an income from that fraction. And the rest of the waste has then the right calorific heating value for the incineration. So in total, this concept is as much circular economy as possible, as much as you can get to have a proper treatment of the municipal solid waste. I have a few more photos for the sorting. Dry digestion. As I said before, one digester has a volume of 4,000 cubic meters. It has a continuous plug flow, so the waste is slowly pushed through the digester with a slowly running agitator. The digested material afterwards is separated, and process water can be recirculated. The biogas which is produced is cleaned and stored. So this dry digestion technology is the only technology which can treat wastes with higher dry solids and with a high concentration of impurities. This is one block schema. This is how we work. And I don't want to show you all the numbers or the details here, but I want to focus on one more important step, the digestate treatment unit. So digested material at the end of the process is separated into a solid and a liquid fraction. And in the first step, the solid fraction is used to cover landfills in our cases. And the liquid fraction is separated in a second step. So the solid fraction from that second step can then go to composting. The liquid fraction is recirculated to dilute the process and also used as a fertilizer after analysis of heavy metals, for example. I also brought two references for MSW treatment. This is one plant in Antalya, Turkey. So it's actually the latest plant, 2017. We have a capacity for organic treatment. So the fraction which goes to the dry digesters is more than 1,000 tons per day. The output is 15.4 megawatt electric. And all this happens with 12 digesters. The other reference plant is Sincan Ankara, also in Turkey. It's the biggest plant which we operate. So it's 18.2 megawatt electric is the output or the installed electric power. The capacity of the sorting plant here is more than 4,000 tons per day of municipal solid waste. A few more slides for biomethanization. I don't think I have to go too much into detail because the other presentations already have included that. If you want to make biomethane out of biogas, you have to upgrade it. So you have to separate the CO2. This can be either done by chemical scrubbing, membrane separation, just a selection of technologies. And the output can then be compressed biogas or liquefied biogas, depending on the usage. Usage of biomethane, replacement of natural gas in the gas grid, fuel for CBG or LBG vehicles, or direct use in industry. Thanks a lot for your attention, and I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Johanna. I do not. I see a question here from Mr. Venkatraman. I'll hand over the mic to the gentleman, and he can pose the question. Mr. Venkatraman,
Yeah, I'm here. Can you
over
hear
to
me?
you.
Yes.
Great presentation, Madam Klaus Moosberger. Okay. It's not your name, right?
Right, I am replacing him. My name is Johanna Bogner. Sorry
Johanna.
for the
Okay.
confusion.
Sorry for that, Johanna. Okay, just want to first congratulate you. It's a very nice presentation. And Turkey, 14 plants,
Thank you.
and they're doing a great job. We need such technology. What you're doing in Delhi, you're just only doing legacy waste, the waste that are sitting there in several acres. Then you clear that. What's exactly happening in Delhi?
So that was my example to show you what's possible or what's
Oh,
the potential of such landfills.
oh,
So we are not active there yet, but we want to.
yeah, I can work with you there. What we have is we take it from where you left. You don't do anything about RDF. So you take MSW to biogas, then you do what you want, is fine. But I'll take the RDF and to try to see if I can make syngas, then try to see whether we can make other fuels. So we like to combine with you to see when I say we, Ravin can put in touch with us. We represent an American company here and also on biogas gas, I'm sorry, syngas gasification, biomass gasification. I'm looking at, yesterday I made a presentation from RDF to sustained aviation fuel.
All
So
right. Thanks
can
for the
you,
information.
what do you do with the RDF now in Turkey?
So in Turkey, it goes to cement industry.
Oh, yes.
So
Okay.
it's used as a fuel there,
Yeah,
refuse derived fuel.
yeah.
But yeah, as you said, let's get in contact. I'm sure you can get my email address through this or through
Yeah,
this
I'll get it.
event, and
Yeah.
then just contact us.
But your name will not be there. So you have to give to Ravin because they have only the other guy's name.
Yeah,
Klaus,
you can contact Klaus Musbrucker. We are in
okay.
contact, so it's no problem.
He's based in Austria.
Yes, correct. So we are an Austrian-based company.
Technical director, good. So we'll do that. So yes, you are also selling at good price for the cement industry. I saw that 15 euros. That's nearly about 1,500 rupees in India. So that's a good
Okay.
price. And That's RDF. We can sell it to the cement industry. More than that, I want to upgrade that to make some biofuels. So we'll let work on that. So let's work together on that. Okay.
Thank you very much.
All the best.
Thank you.
Perfect. Johanna, I have another question here. I'll just share it on the screen for you so that you can answer that. There you go.
In dry digestion, we need to, I'll just read it out for everyone. In
Yeah.
dry digestion, we need to recycle leachate or liquid with good quantity of enzyme and bacteria to connect and convert to biogas. Well, you don't need to recycle the leachate, but it's definitely a good idea because it has the potential of additional biogas production. So it is what we do. It's also what we do in the process. We do the recirculation of process water to get the desired dry solids content or the desired dilution factor in the digesters, but it's not absolutely needed. I hope that answers your question. Otherwise, just contact me, as I said before.
Great. So that, I think, is the last question that we had for you. Thank you so much, Johanna, once again. I'll request Mr. Babbar to kindly join us back. Sorry, Mr. Sampath to kindly join us back for the remainder of his presentation.
Yes, I'm here. We were talking about the plastics that can be recycled into fuel oil, and the presentation has always gave me some trouble. So,
Sampathji, can I suggest you this? Since your network is fluctuating, at the bottom of your screen, you will find an option that says low bandwidth and low definition and high definition. Please choose low definition.
Okay, HD. Okay.
There should be a emblem with HD written on it. You can make it to LD, and this might be this.
Yeah, I've changed already. I changed it. Yes.
Okay,
I think I'm just searching for my presentation and my share screen. Yeah. So we were discussing about the plastics. What even Jonah was talking about when we were removing that. So we take those plastic which goes to this cement industry to pyrolysis plant, where we convert the 1 ton of plastic waste into 400 liters of oil. And today the current price of oil is around 50 rupees liter. So you can generate quite a lot of money from the plastic waste, whereas your cement industries don't pay any money to the the RDF for the plastic waste that we sell. That is the one. So another reason for the pyrolysis is that
there is a study conducted by Neely and CPCB in 2005, and as per that study conducted, 50 to 60% of this waste producing in the cities, Indian cities, is of organic fraction.
Yeah. Organic waste is almost 50%. Okay. What we are talking about is the plastic, which is around 5 to 10%. These plastics can be converted into the valuables like oil, or we can distill the oil and then produce electricity. So I'll quickly go to this slide is not moving. Some problem with this slide. Okay. Anyway, so typically we can process any kind of plastic waste dumped out from the municipal waste, whether the fresh municipal waste or the landfill waste, especially the composites, which are normally found in the landfill. So that can be recycled, and the main thing is that the thermocol, polyurethane foam. Then you can talk about the disposal cups, which are the micron thickness, and the adhesive tapes, which are very difficult to clean them and then reuse them. And some of the automobile parts, which are dirty and heavily contaminated, heavily printed, these kind of materials what we process in the pyrolysis plant. the concept is, it's like a cooker where you put your plastics and then heat outside the cooker, and the plastic melts and become gas, and the gas comes out. We have two kind of gas. One is the condensable gas, other one is non-condensable gas. The non-condensable gas is same property of LPG, and we use them for heating the vessel. And the condensable gas gets condensed into oil, and if you distill the oil, it can almost close to the diesel. And the residue will be the carbon black because there is no oxygen inside, and the carbon black is it's rich in carbon, so this again further can be used for burning or colorant, or is in the master batch and paint industry. So the whole process takes around 450 degrees centigrade, and the gas which comes out for heating is heated around 1000 degrees centigrade, and the most of the toxic dies when we heat up to 1000 degrees centigrade. And because of that, there is no emissions. If you see the emission test, it shows almost meeting the standards of European norms. The initial oil will be black, and then when we do the distillation, it comes as close as uh, uh, the diesel. And this oil, the usage is that's used in the road contractor uses for replacing the diesel, and it's predominantly used for heating. Actually, used in the burners, in the melting furnaces, and any kind of furnaces. And then all the MNCs have started using it now because of the cost of the diesel, and plus the fossil fuel replacement. I mean, that is the one of the best part. So we have done many plants in the past. We have done exclusive plants for carpets recycling. We have done exclusive for e-waste recycling through pyrolysis, polyurethane foam recycling, and then the composite plastic, and then some of the industry like a paper mill waste. We have done that. So we can manage any kind of plastic waste into energy. And if you see the emissions, our emissions are very much within the norms of even the European standards. So because the processed gas is heated up to 1000 degrees centigrade, it goes off, and once it's become hydrocarbon, the hydrocarbon once condensed, there is no problem, there is no issue. But the contaminants which is coming along with the gas are burnt at the higher temperature, and that they get killed. So we have a test result, and it shows almost closer to the diesel. So the diesel is, so whatever comes as a waste into the plant will never go out as a waste, because the gas is used for heating, or can be produced even using the generator to produce power, and the oil is used or sold, and the carbon black which we get as a final residue also used and or sold. So pyrolysis is one of the better technology for a country like India, where we need to address the smaller size plant, like what biogas people are talking about, 5-ton plant, 1-ton plant. We can also talk about 3 tons, 5 tons plant. And for the bigger cities, definitely we need a technology from like AAT and things like that. So that will give you the better yield and better clearing of the garbage which are lying around. So this is what is my briefly I want to talk about the pyrolysis, and if there's any questions, I'm ready to answer.
Thank you so much, sir. I do not see any questions as of now.
Okay.
Yeah, no questions so far. So thank you so much, Mr. Sampath. I would also like to thank all the presenters for being here and presenting. Once again, it's truly an honor to have visionaries and people looking to the future coming in at Gasification 2021 India and giving us options and solutions that are going to help us all escalate the society and make the future better and greener, hopefully. So thank you so much for being a part of this technical session. Truly appreciate you being here.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Gundu. Thank you, Mr. Gundu.
So, ladies and gentlemen, with that, we'd like to take a small break and join in after half an hour for the next technical session, We'll be talking about waste to energy, novel technological and analytical approaches there. I'm sorry. Join us at 4:30 for the next session. Thank you.